Established in April 2021, Upland Development United is the oldest and most exclusive and transparent no development collaborative in the Upland Metaverse. Contact Morecheese at 168 for more information. Warning: this podcast is produced by Metaverse Ventures Entertainment and contains unsolicited and heavily biased opinions which are solely the views of the individuals involved. It does not include investment advice of any kind, and you are responsible for undertaking your own financial, including tax liability research relevant to your own individual circumstances.
Welcome to a special Metaverse Spotlight, co-hosted by the UDU and UCC, produced by the MBE. Here is where the Metafacturing begins. Dak, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here, and I'm excited to talk about metafacturing. For those that don't know, metafacturing is a term that UCC coined back in November of 2021, where the idea of anything that could be built with Spark came was kind of put together with the idea that we're in the metaverse. And so anything that could be built with Spark could be manufactured with Spark. Well, we're in the metaverse, put it all together, metafacturing, ta-da. And so when we were looking, when we first heard about that MetaVentures were really starting to happen, this was after the changes that they had made to the original beta program and everything else. We said, hey, UCC, we manage Spark. We really could jump into this whole concept of assembly lines and being able to help with production and inventory management and so forth. And so we said, let's plan for that business. Let's plan for that future. And we created the whole kind of team around that in manufacturing. From there, we've kind of gotten to the point where today, factories are released. Outdoor decor shops are about to come out, and UCC is kind of excited about where this could be going.
Absolutely. And Dak, you're a pro. This is take two for those that don't know, because we had some technical difficulties. There's no way I'm going to repeat everything that I said, so well done to you, Dak. I'll just try and do a quick synopsis of what we talked about prior. This is a special production put out by the UDU podcast and the UCC because we have a well-established relationship, mutual goals, this, that, and the other thing. There's no grand conspiracy that we're all part of some big giant conglomerations. The UDU, myself, and other node managers such as Morecheese, we basically employ the UCC to help us build within our nodes and that sort of stuff. And we just see this metafacturing as the next stage in the evolution of what this is all about. We have seen kicked off recently, there's a lot of talk about, hey, I didn't know about this Better Business program. This is unfair, this, that, and the other thing. You guys are going to have a monopoly and whatnot. This is a very long timeline that we're dealing with here. And I'll try and pull this up again, and hopefully we don't crash and burn again. If you're on the Spotify and you want to check it out, go to udu.world. There's a bit of a timeline there as to the journey that we've been on. So on the 8th of June, 2020, Upland first released information about businesses. And from there, I started thinking about what business I wanted to run. And then if we fast forward to the 15th of January, 2021, Upland released some official information about the Business Better program, and there was a pre-application and then a later application stage for both Block Explorer and outdoor decor businesses. I applied for an outdoor decor business and received notification that my application was successful on the 9th of February 2021. And I'm going to jump straight out of there before we crash. So yeah, you're talking about a long time. I've essentially been sitting for well over a year waiting for this all to kick off. Now, my original business pitch, Samurai Aquatics, was all about in-ground outdoor pools, swimming pools, and garden ponds and that sort of thing. When was that, Cheese? When did we get notification that that was all thrown in the bin? It wasn't that long ago.
Maybe 2 months ago?
2-3 months ago, yeah. So basically, we were told that, you can't do any big structures like that can't be moved. And of course, we did get extra information come through in that, 18 months or whatever it is, that there's going to be a secondary token that's going to deal with the manufacturing of anything that's living. So even if we were to put a garden pond out, It couldn't have lily pads. It couldn't have fish in the pond. It couldn't have any plants around it because that's going to be an entirely separate thing. So that kind of threw the business idea that I had and that we were planning for, like, straight in the bin, and we had to start again from scratch. So realistically, our business has only been going for the last, whatever it's been, 2-3 months. So yeah, although it has been a very long timeline, there's been massive periods where we've had nothing to do but speculate and plan in the dark, really. So these last couple of months have just been absolute chaos as far as trying to do as much as we can and get ready, because we still don't know when this is all going to be released. Of course, the Upland team releasing factories and that sort of stuff is a very good step in the right direction and gives us an indication that we're probably not that far away. But, you know, we still haven't built any inventory. We still don't know how it's all going to play out. So it's all still very early. I don't know, Cheese, did you want to speak to that as well?
Yeah, I remember. I just DM'd it to you. I don't know. I was like, I remember when I used to kind of get on your case, like, let's start talking about outdoor decor. It's going to come any day. It's going to come any day.
Yep.
Like, and that was like maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah. And it speaks to the people, the people that are saying it's unfair that I didn't have a chance. Well, you don't have a time machine. And you have the chance now. Now is your chance. We saw this with the Block Explorer shops. There were the 10 original Better Business Block Explorer shops opened. And I think, what was that? That was probably, it wasn't very long. Maybe they were open for a month or 2 months at a stretch. And then they opened it up to more people and then more people. And the exact same thing is going to happen with outdoor decor. As soon as us Better Business Program participants iron out all the bugs, I'm almost certain they're going to open up the floodgates pretty soon after that. So if you have any interest whatsoever in having an outdoor decor shop or any kind of metafacturing sort of setup, start planning for that now. Get working on that now. Don't wait until all the information gets released.
And I think that's important too. I mean, as I mentioned, UCC, we started getting into this concept of trying to support Metaventures when the concept of Metaventures was announced back in November. You know, when originally they had the beta program, and then at some point they decided, okay, we're not doing the beta program the way we said we were going to do it. We're doing this then instead, Metaventures, and we're releasing Block Explorers first, and then we'll move to outdoor decor and so forth, right? And so that was like November of last year or something like that, like, you know, a big push after the Animoca kind of investment. And so all of a sudden things started moving kind of thing, right? And so, you know, at that point, we had already transitioned from doing just one-offs, kind of like an exchange, to really starting to focus on neighborhood development, mass, multiple build kind of property contracts. And, you know, in October, that's when you first tried out UCC, Ben. And from there, we just, you know, you came in, and then we had TMS, and we had different folks that started to build with us and kind of building up nodes. From that experience, we were able to really kind of hone our queuing system, kind of really do better at being able to provide some predictable budget expenses in terms of rates and timeline deliveries and so forth. And it's all of those little steps that kind of helped fine tune the assembly line kind of process, help fine tune the delivery models that would be necessary for Metaventures and decor shops, but maybe not even just the decor shops. You know, obviously in the future, there's going to be other types of Metaventure businesses that people will need inventory for, that they'll need consistent inventory delivery for, and so forth. And so we didn't wait until August or late July 2022. We started in November 2021 prepping for this. I mean, Lemmy has been sitting waiting. You know, he's our director of Metafacturing. He has been sitting and waiting for this since we hired him in October, I think. You know, so he's on vacation now with the family, but I'm like, all right, let's go. It's time to get busy.
It's always the way, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the journey to how we've gotten here. do you want to speak to where we are now, Dak, as far as what we know with the factories and that sort of stuff?
Well, I think, and I kind of posted this in one of the channels or something like that. Yesterday, when factories were announced, people were just like, I want to build a factory. And I just saw people talking about they started a factory all over my Discord servers. And I'm on a lot of different Discord servers. And I was on Twitter and I saw YK2012 did a really fast video on why you shouldn't build a factory. And the very first comment was like, you negative person kind of thing, right? And I'm like, no, actually, it makes a lot of sense. And so, right now, we know that we can build a small factory. We've seen how the mechanic for inventory and so, assigning the inventory lot. I don't know about others, but when I was trying to create the factory that, UCC is creating factories, but when I was trying to set the factory up for one of those, trying to figure out how to use that little...
It's impossible on mobile.
Oh my God. And I was on mobile and I'm trying to square it away. Oh man, it was so painful.
I can speak to that. I did ask about that in the UCN, or it might have been the Better Business Program channel in Upland, and I think it was Jennifer got back to me. That's the very first iteration of that system. They didn't want to hold back the whole process until they had a better way to do that. So we should see improvements to come with that, because it was impossible for me on mobile. I had to switch over to my laptop, which I never do anything with Upland related on. So.
Yeah, and I got mine started because I had no choice. I wanted to get it started and get going. But, as we're seeing people kind of getting in through all this, there's just so many different elements. And one of the things that a lot of people have questions about is what size UP2 property should I put it on? Does the inventory really matter? The inventory slot really matter? They mentioned it's small. Does that mean that there's going to be other sizes? And, I've heard that the idea is the factories are all going to be able to produce similar items, but that the large ones will have, I guess, more bandwidth to deliver faster, maybe even multiple tracks so that you're doing 2 at a time versus 1 at a time, like multiple assembly line kind of things. Who knows? But the idea is I do think that there's going to be a small and large. I don't see why they would need a medium. If I was Upland, I wouldn't waste time on a medium. So I think they probably aren't either. And then in terms of UP2, one of the things that we've settled on is anything under 2,000 UP2, we're going to put a small factory on. Anything over 2,000 UP2, we're going to put a large factory on. And we're going to shoot for anything over 4,000 to really use for large factories. The idea being is that that's hopefully where we'll be able to do auto manufacturing. And that would need space.
Yeah, there's a lot of people are just falling into the whole FOMO situation, and it comes back to that classic the meme or the GIF. But why? Why are you doing this? If you're putting up a manufacturing plant for no real purpose, there's people talking about they're doing it as a play to flip on the market and that sort of thing. I guess potentially that's an angle, but it's not that much spark. It's 22 spark fills up the small factory, and it takes 16 days. So it's obviously if you don't have.
It is 8,600 spark hours, so it's bigger than an apartment building, but it's not as big as some of the new structures.
No, absolutely not. So and there's a lot of people putting the first smallest factory on their biggest property that they have.
Mistake.
There are limitations to what you can do with a small lot size and the small factory, but I have a business license, and the property that we've put our factory on is tiny because we have set up from the get-go. And I'm going to risk trying to share screen again without my computer crashing, but we shall see. So hopefully you've got that up there. This is San Francisco, obviously. Now, no surprises that we're set up in Midtown Terrace, which is bang smack in the middle. And assuming this will load for me. I'm already getting low system resources. Let's see if it'll load. Yeah, all right. So our factory is here. See, as you can see, our factory has just started to being built on this property here in Midtown Terrace. Now, it is a very unusually shaped property, but it's the best option we have in Midtown Terrace. The inventory lot for this is a very tiny rectangle at the front. And this factory will be going flat out from the very first day that we can produce anything. How is it possible that we can do anything with such a tiny factory? Well, when I first set out to mint out Midtown Terrace was specifically for this purpose. When we got the first information about outdoor decor, we were told that we were going to need to display completed items onto lots. So just as if you put up a factory here, like I did, you had to draw the inventory lot in front of it on the property itself. Well, all of these properties here along Aquavista Way, Skyview Way, these two massive blocks, these are all reserved for the display of inventory that's going to come out of the factory. And the same thing's going to happen there. I'll have to draw a rectangular inventory lot on each one of these properties as materials come off the production line. So, yeah. Dak, did you want to speak to that?
Let me ask you. Well, and this is where I think we get to speculate a little bit about functionality and what the in-game mechanic is versus the rumors that have been heard and so forth, right? One of the things is that once the inventory lot is full, production stops. So you're going to have constant movement of inventory to showrooms or to wherever it is that you're going to actually present the inventory for sale. With that in mind, there's a couple of questions that come to mind. One, can you move inventory into just generic lots, or does it have to be a showroom kind of piece, right? So your apartment buildings, for example, do they become showrooms for your inventory? And that's where you can add your inventory. The other thing that I heard is that you'll be able to move inventory one at a time. I think eventually when we have semi-trucks and carrying capacity, you might be able to move more than one inventory item at a time. But if you're moving one inventory item at a time and it locks your BE, that is a lot of drainage on resources.
Yeah. It is a bit confusing because we are in the very early beta part of this whole situation. Now, we did have a backup plan. Cheese, D-Tech, myself, who are the Samurai Aquatics team, we were debating whether to go with this factory here in Midtown Terrace, or I've got two 4,000 up-squared lots in Fresno, which is, just down the road. So back and forth with that idea, we did settle on this version.
Sorry, I was just going to say, guess where our first UCC factory is being built?
Fresno.
Yeah.
Because I got two 4,000 up-squared lots there, and the mint prices were like 50,000 UPEX way back in the day. So, cheap as chips over there. We envision the way we're setting up Samurai Aquatics is we're going to do some very long tail outdoor decor items. So things that we expect will take multiple years to sell out. And then we're also going to go, medium tail, short tail, and then you've got your FOMO sales, basically very exclusive, rare items that we want to get out quickly and sell out quickly. So, looking forward to the future, this factory here will essentially become the kind of high speed, small items, get them out quick factory, and then probably the ones in Fresno and other areas around the country or wherever, they'll be the more major manufacturing plants.
Yeah, and actually, I think it's going to be interesting, the idea of having like an artisan shop, right? So this becomes your artisan shop for your unique items, and then your bulk shop is in Fresno.
Yeah. The important thing is that I have a business license. We have a business plan. We are in the Better Business program, but we're not getting ahead of ourselves. We're taking tiny baby steps. We're doing what we can with the information we have. Now, I can speak to the process as far as we know it to be true. So the Upland team has provided us with some specifications that we need to build our outdoor decor items in Blender. and those are passed on to D-Tech, who is our artist. And together with Cheese and myself, we kind of work out what do we actually want to do. And, eventually we'll work with the community. What does the community want to see and that sort of thing? So once we have an idea of what we want to do, D-Tech builds it. There's a fairly complex submission process. Because the business is in my name, D-Tech is the artist. He understands all the terminology and all that sort of stuff. I don't have a clue about any of it. So D-Tech and Cheese had to babysit me through the submission process, because there is a lot of steps to do there. That gets sent to the team. The team, they either say it's approved, or they say, no, you got to fix this up and that sort of thing. And they send it back to you, and then you resubmit. So there's a process just to get stuff ticked that, yes, you can manufacture. That's where we're at now. We have several items approved. We have several more items in production that are going to be submitted for approval. And once that's all good to go, the team has to allocate how many Spark hours are going to be associated with each item. As far as any of that goes, we've got no idea whatsoever. Pricing, all that sort of stuff, no idea whatsoever. So that's all yet to be fleshed out. But we can kind of speculate a bit. Maybe Cheese, did you want to speak to this as the process of how the manufacturing plant is going to work? So Upland's approved. They say, away you go, start building.
Huh? I thought this was the Rose show. Hold on.
No, we want you involved. And you were trying to outline some of this in the cafe last night, and we're getting talked over by people who don't know what they're talking about. Kind of through no fault of their own. There is a lot of rumor and speculation out there.
Well, it was their fault, because I am part of a MetaVenture team, and I do have information that they're not privy to. Other than that, it was actually even specifically stated in the article that came out from Upland, stating that once your factory manufacturing square placement is full, you can then move stuff out from there into open plots that you own around there.
Yeah. So assuming we get the go ahead, we produce now. I'll just bring this up because I'm going to speak to this. This is an example of one of the items that D-Tech has put together with his wizardry. We're calling this the outdoor, what do we call it? Ice bath station. Ice bath station. So, and this is going to be one piece in a, what is it, Cheese? A 10-piece set.
Yeah. So we're pretty much going to have different variations of wood color. We're going to have different color trim, and they're going to be, this is going to be part of our common. We're going to have common, uncommon, so on and so forth. But we want to have a good amount of the commons so that everybody has a chance to kind of fill in their nodes with something really nice and with the colors that they want to use. They don't have to just use, the red or blue. They could have a yellow trim or what have you, or a different variant of wood. There's going to be a lot of quantities available for that, and we're going to make them really affordable. They're not going to be crazy.
Yeah, and like I said, this is one of a 10-piece set. So, think of things like an outdoor sauna, barbecue set, seating, all that, this, that, and the other thing. So that's the sort of thing we're focusing on, keeping in mind that we had to throw our original business idea in the bin and start again from scratch just recently. So, yeah, let's say we get to go ahead and we want to make this. So within the factory, there's going to be some kind of UI where we begin that process. I assume it's going to be very similar to what we've seen with the MV motors. So there'll be a certain amount of spark hours required to produce those items. As they're produced, they will be displayed in the front, in the inventory lot for this property. Once that's full, then there's going to be a UI process where I manually transfer them to the empty lots in the front. So it's another one of the reasons why we decided to go with this smaller factory here, is because I've got lots of room to move stuff. And at this stage, we've got no idea how the trucking and transportation system's going to work. We were told that at least in the beta period, if we were to put our factory in Fresno, there was going to be a kind of interim leeway period where we would essentially be able to airdrop the items from Fresno to San Francisco or wherever. And that's purely because the mechanics aren't developed yet. We didn't want to get ahead of ourselves in that respect, so we wanted to keep everything small. Again, not going crazy into FOMO and too deeply into speculation. We envision, like I said, this little factory will be running 24/7, and I'm sure there'll be times where Cheese is pinging me at midnight, hey, you got to get up and move some inventory, we're almost full, sort of thing.
Hopefully by that time, people in your team will be able to kind of have access to that. I'm not going to hold my breath, but that would be amazing.
Yeah, you could have a team with 50 people in it, but at this stage, there's only one person that controls it all.
Well, you could have a team with 50 people, but you should be able to assign either at least one, at most two.
Yeah, that's the ideal.
Right. There's still no entity concept in Upland.
No. And just putting it out there too, if you are thinking about this, a lot of the stuff that Cheese, DTech, and myself have done is front-loading potential tax implications. There's a lot of stuff you got to be very wary of. Don't, obviously this is not financial advice, but you got to think ahead, check out your local tax laws and whatnot as far as this sort of stuff goes, because I can see people getting themselves in a whole world of trouble when it comes to buying and selling these sorts of things as part of teams and receiving payments for, USD dollar sales and whatnot. So yeah, Dak, you're talking about showrooms and that whole process. We do know that showrooms are coming. We don't know any of the specifics about what that's going to be. I would assume that the factory is going to produce the items. They're going to go in the factory inventory lot. Then those items get moved into the physical property for storage. This is basically, all of these properties in the front is essentially our warehouse. And I assume the showroom will be, I think that's just going to be a UI front. Like that'll show how many, it'll be very similar to the Block Explorer shops where you'll have an image like we've just seen with the ice bath. There'll be an image there. It'll say how many is available, what the prices are. And then from that, that's what you'll interact with your buying and selling. That's pure speculation because we don't have any of that information. And then if sales are made, then again, without any sort of transportation process in place for release, I'm expecting that one of the items will disappear from the storage lots and just go straight into the buyer's UI. Now, we do know that's going to change in future when it comes to trucking and whatnot. Like, you might buy an item here and you have to pay a price for delivery, or who knows? Maybe Dak, you can speak about that.
No, we know that semi trucks are going to have cargo capacity, and so we do know that weight is going to determine the amount of cargo that can be carried and so forth. Malice Sky, I know, is working on, and it's not just her, there's several other people who are working on putting together transportation businesses. And it's going to be interesting to see how big that business gets, because networking all of the cities is going to be challenging. And then we still don't know about international cities. There's no cargo ships yet, right? I keep saying, I remember, I don't know when it was, but I remember saying, oh, Jacksonville is going to be the next one. I think it was before Queens came out. Yeah. And I was saying, oh, Jacksonville is next, because I'm like, we need shipping cities. And I mean, sure, we have some, LA is a big shipping port, right? And so we do have some cities that could serve as ports, but there's no shipping cargo elements yet. So right now, all of the transportation would be local to the US or local to the region if there's a factory in it.
Yes.
Kind of thing, right? So I think it'll be interesting. I like the way, I'm learning some stuff from what you were presenting, and you and Morecheese, how you kind of walking through what you're expecting to do. I also think it was really smart that you thought about where you're placing your factory, why you're placing your factory there, how it's connected to the overall business, how you already have an inventory list of products that have been created. Not just, hey, I started a factory, yay.
Yeah, no. If you look, like Cheese and DTech and myself have published some of the meetings that we've had, we've put it out there publicly. Like if you're looking at a lot of it's just scratching our head. What are we going to do with this information? How are we going to work around these logistics? One thing to keep in mind too is, you know, as the game has developed, I have purposely bought massive properties in all of the various cities for future expansion potential of the business, but we don't know. We don't have any idea how that's going to play out or if that's even possible. Like for the Samurai Aquatics business, we had to nominate a city that was going to be in. Of course, that was San Francisco. But, you know, if we want to sell stuff in the Bronx, we don't know. Of course, there will be a shipping component of that. But like you said, Dak, with international, we don't know how that's going to play out. Ideally, Cheese would build a factory in her node in the Bronx, and we just run manufacturing out of there for the local kind of economy. But again, we got no idea how that's going to play out.
And what I also find kind of interesting, and kind of goes to what you said, that you have to pick an address for your location. I know at one point people were talking about blueprints, right? And if Metaventure wanted to outsource manufacturing or metafacturing to someone, right? Versus them. So if they just wanted to be a showroom kind of thing, right? And they wanted to outsource metafacturing, could they sell a blueprint of their inventory to a factory? And then that factory gets that blueprint and produces that blueprint in mass, right? Yeah. And so if that was an option, then people who are building factories would then actually be able to do something with the factories they've been building and get into the Metaventure business as kind of supplier, right? And so when you think about the supply chain in metafacturing or manufacturing, you know, in the beginning, back in November, we were talking about there's usually 4 stages to the chain. There's resources, right? You know, getting all your raw materials and everything else, and that's the spark. There is the manufacturing where you have the actual assembly and delivery and manufacturing of the product. There's logistics, transportation logistics, the delivery and distribution of inventory and content. And then there's retail sales, right? And so if people want, you know, if Upland actually uses a very real world type of economic model and implements those 4 stages, well, you really should have functionality available for those 4 stages. So if you are a resource center, right? If you are a Spark system, you know, how are you going to be able to put that Spark to use for someone who's in manufacturing? If you are, you know, if you're doing transportation, how are we going to be able to work with inventory that's stored, right? You know, so if I go to your inventory, your storage center, and I need to pick up 10 pieces for delivery in Kansas City, how do I know which pieces are going to be picked up and so forth, right? And so there has to be some level of in-game functionality. I know that Upland has been very big on layer 2, and maybe layer 2 could provide some of that kind of user experience interface. But I think that if it's not in the game, it's going to be very difficult for the community to really engage. So, you know, there's a lot of opportunity, and I know Dirk always talks about how, you know, he has his doctorate in economics, and he really wants to build an economic model around Upland that's community driven versus Upland driven. And this has the opportunity, but you have to break it down into those 4 stages, and then you have to support the functionality in each of those stages.
Absolutely. One of the things that I just thought of too, as you were speaking, that it might be important to clarify as well, is that the showroom and the factory does not have to be in the same location, which is just mirrors in real life. And I also, if you're a person who's new to the game or something like that, and you wanted to set something up like this, nowadays it is almost impossible to be able to mint out full blocks like this. for this kind of setup. So what we have on display here might not be applicable to what you want to do at all. So start thinking about ways around that. You know, instead of having multiple small lots like this, maybe you just need 2 big lots. And again, they don't need to be within the same location. It may be a case, because Midtown Terrace is a node project, it may be the case that, well, we don't want all the outdoor decor items looking out in the weather in the middle of all the houses in future. We might want to move our manufacturing completely to external somewhere else once all the transportation and all that sort of stuff is set up, because, you know, we decided, actually, you know what, we want to put more townhouses here, or something to do with the racetrack that's going to go around it and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's one of those tricky things where you can't get ahead of yourself, but you also have to plan for the future at the same time.
Unless maybe in sometime soon or in the future we can merge properties.
Merge. Well, that was the idea for these. What do you got there? There's about 8 properties there. The idea was that eventually we would be able to merge those, and a showroom property might be able to be put in there. Now, we got no idea what showrooms. Well, actually, we kind of do have an idea what showrooms are going to look like, but yeah, we don't know the sizes or anything like that. We might find that, you know what, Midtown Terrace is not ideal for this kind of setup, so we have to demolish this factory. The factory has to move to Fresno, and this property will become the showroom. You know, it's just one of those things where you just got to roll with the punches.
And look at what Crypto Jedi wrote. Something about almost certain you will need to have room for parking lots too.
Yeah, parking cars and that sort of stuff as well. So all of those things are just complete unknowns.
Yeah, people are coming to your showroom. They're going to be coming to your showroom in cars. Yeah,
and it was kind of, I think it was Nubex and a few other people were joking about, you know, you're going to have little mini forklifts running out to put the items on the trucks and this, that, and the other thing. You know, we just got no idea how it's all going to work. So
now, you were talking about how it's very hard for new players to kind of mint out blocks like it used to be back in the day. And one of the things that I think has been interesting in what I've seen is nodes coming together to kind of support the meta venture of the that's in that neighborhood. And I think that is one way where if you're a new player, you may not be able to buy out a block, you may not be able to build a factory, but you might be able to get a property in a new node, or you might be able to just splurge and buy a property in an existing node that is active and doing a lot of stuff, and then work something out with the meta ventures in that neighborhood to say, okay, well, I can serve as a storage center for you, right? And maybe there is a small fee that can be paid out, like a visit fee or something like that, that can be paid out to deliver functionality for storage. I mean, if you're visiting a place to deliver inventory, why shouldn't the visitor fee be charged?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you know, it's if you think about it, it's one way to just get a look. Everybody loves those visit fees, right? And so why not have visit fees for storage?
Absolutely. Maybe just, oh, sorry, Cheese, go ahead.
That actually, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That makes me think of something that I read in the Upland article for the factories. They said something like, factory owners may also wish to leverage their existing factories to trade with other uplanders who are eager to start production immediately rather than wait for a factory to be built. Decision is yours. So that kind of makes me think leasing is on their minds for the future. So let's say you have a huge property, because back, like the strategy before was currently get small, flip, make money, end of story. The big properties weren't really picked up at as much. Now they're looked at as priceless, you know? So people who go and get those properties and build the manufacturing on them, they can then go ahead and either sell that lot for a good premium or hopefully, in my mind, I would love to see something like that being leased. Like, hey, I have big land, I have this, I don't want to get rid of it, but if you want to rent it from me on my land, you're free to do so. And that
Absolutely.
right there is another meta venture.
Yep.
Something that was interesting when they were talking about racing, right? And the idea and renting, actually during Genesis, and they were talking about, can you rent an apartment? And they say, no, you can't rent an apartment, but you can rent, you'll be able to lease the property. And that would be something that would come sooner rather than living unit rentals. Remember, everybody was asking about living unit rentals. And they're like, that's not going to happen this year, but you might be able to lease the property sooner than living unit rentals.
That would be cool.
And maybe it's for something like this.
That was a perfect segue, Cheese, into the next point that I wanted to bring up. As now, if you do have an outdoor decor shop or some kind of manufacturing business and you're going to start producing things, there's 3 ways that you can go about that. You can build it all yourself, do it all entirely in-house, which, as you will know, will require a lot of spark. And think ahead too, like eventually there's going to be decor businesses for living things like plants and whatnot. So that's going to be an entirely different token. So if that's something like, if you want to do like some kind of trees or something like that, you're going to have to start getting yourself a balance to buy that token as well, because that'll be a whole different economy. So yeah, you can build everything yourself. You can employ somebody else to build, like Cheese has just said. There seems to be some kind of mechanic where you can lease another factory to manufacture your inventory. And that's a lot of the DMs I got yesterday. That was kind of what it was all about. Like, I've just built a factory, I can build your stuff for you. I'm like, hang on a minute, let's just not get ahead of ourselves here. And the third way is, which will be a segue over to Dak to take over, is that, and is what we're going to do with Samurai Aquatics, is you can employ somebody else to help you build within your factory. Now, up until yesterday or the day before, we weren't sure if third-party spark staking was going to be possible. We did get confirmation that will be the case. So over to you, Dak, because that is the relationship that Samurai Aquatics and UCC will be pursuing. Where, and again, I haven't spoken to anybody with the UCC about how this is all going to play out, but I assume in my head that we will have our inventory up and running, and the UCC will essentially be sending extra workers in to help us build, is kind of probably the easiest analogy. And there'll be, as I said at the get-go, the beauty of the UCC is it's all very clear, all very transparent. This is the fees, this is the price, this is what we can deliver.
Yeah, and I think you kind of summarized the 3 options really well. And, we're hoping to be able to support all 3 of those, honestly. And then in terms of the third option, where it is, providing a workforce, for lack of a better term, right? Spark, if you think about construction, it's been equated to, it's the workforce that's going in, it's the construction crew that's coming in to build your apartment building or your townhouse or whatever, right? Well, the same thing with anything that's manufacturing. If it has an assembly line and it's going in, it's inorganic and it's got to be built, well, it's going to require a workforce to build it, right? And that's what Spark kind of represents. So we're looking at it in the same way. And in terms of UCC, and this is where Lemmy's role really is going to kind of kick in, and he's going to be responsible for managing. We have different queues that we have, and right now they've just been very one-dimensional because it's structures. And so we've had it kind of based on Flex queue, advanced staker kind of program. And then we had a prime queue for really big spark holders, people who have over 10 spark, which in the beginning, that was really rare. Now that prime queue is filled with people because so many people have more than 10 spark. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But what we're expecting is that we're going to start transitioning, maybe either creating new queues or taking over one of the queues and just transitioning that into a contracted workforce agreement with Metaventures, who require resources to come in and build. And so we don't know what the Spark max capacity is going to be for small factories. So in other words, if you have a small factory and maybe we could only load it up with 10 Spark or 20 Spark or 50 Spark, right? Well, whatever that number is, you're going to be loaded up and it's going to stay loaded up on a consistent basis so that your inventory is moving at a consistent clip. And on top of that, because it is a contracted rate and we don't change our rates on a regular basis, like daily or hourly, you know what your expenses are going to be. And if you're running the business, the idea of being able to do expense management,
yes,
being able to do financial planning in terms of what your budgeting is going to be, what your margins are going to be, when you're going to have a spike in pricing and so forth, all of those elements, you're running a business when you have a meta venture, and it's not a small effort. And
yeah,
I think
I'm just
people
going to
need to kind of think of it that way.
Yeah, I'll just interject there to add that, yeah, absolutely. And it's going to go back to the classic underlying thing where don't invest more than you're willing to lose and all that sort of stuff. The Samurai Aquatics business will be employing the UCC within a weekly budget that we can get with our in-game economy. Like, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves and start pouring money in, because if you're at the front of this thing, I'm not a whale. I can't just throw money at this thing like real money. This is all going to be in-game economy stuff. And I did allude to it before too. There's tax implications that can be a very gray area. So we're going out of a fat dolphin. Thank you, Cheese. We're going out of our way to stay within the in-game economy. So with my dividends, I'm going to have a certain budgetary allocation, and I'm going to say to the UCC, this is what we've got. This is what we need. What can you do? That sort of thing. So, yeah, it's very important.
I was going to say, I was waiting for Morecheese to come in with her fat dolphins, because we know she loves her fat dolphins.
Bloated. I'm not fat. I'm bloated.
Chunky.
I'm fluffy.
Chunky, fluffy.
Oh my gosh, we're getting wildly off track here.
Okay,
yeah,
but back on track. And I think that's part of it is, what is your budget? What is your budget allocation? What are you going to be spending? And then how much? I mean, that's going to start to, when you do pricing, right, there's an art and science to pricing. And so you do have to kind of look at all your expenses, right? What is your expense cost? What is your per unit cost, right? Because then you have to be able to tack on your margin to that per unit cost. And that is the market rate that you're trying to sell. Then you look at what the market can bear and say, okay, do I actually have room to sell it at a higher premium? Or do I need to figure out how to reduce my overall expenses so that I can bring my unit of cost down, right? And so those are like a lot that has to kind of go into kind of thinking about this if you want to have a successful meta venture. I mean, if you want to run in the red and you're willing to supplement your business because you just love Upland, awesome, go for it. But it's not a sustainable model.
No, and I guess I can offer some advice too to the people that think it's too late for them to get involved, or it's unfair, or that these 10 businesses are going to have a giant monopoly and this sort of thing. And now we've talked about this internally with the team, the Samurai Aquatics team. We can only control what we can control. We don't get bogged down in worrying about what other people are doing, or, that there's people with way more spark than what we have. There's people with hundreds of spark in some cases. That's completely out of our control. We can only do what we can do. So worrying about anything external to that is just pointless. And there will be a case, like I'm envisioning in the future, there's going to be hundreds upon hundreds of outdoor decor businesses offering all sorts of different products. There will be a lot of overlap, of course. It's the nature of a capitalist economy. But there will be a lot of opportunities for niche markets. So if you have some idea brewing with some kind of thing, or it may be the case where you specialize in working with individual players and doing one-of-ones, or whether you work with node or community projects and you can do that sort of thing. Because we have been told that there will be mechanics within the UI where we can manufacture something that's purely for someone. So if the UCC came to us, for example, and said, okay, Samurai Aquatics, we want a UCC sign that we can stick up here, there, and everywhere. You know, we want 100 of those, or we want 10 of those, or we want one of those. There is going to be mechanics in place where outdoor decor shops can manufacture those specialist custom items. So yeah, don't think you've missed the ball. Don't think you're behind the 8 ball. You still got loads of time. And you're actually going to get the benefit of us having to sit for 18 months doing nothing. And all of this, like, as I said, it's a very laborious process at the moment. So you get all the good stuff on the back end.
Plus, you could see all our planning. We're 100%, you know, transparent. We put all of our stuff into YouTube, whether it comes from creating the SKUs, creating what we're looking to do or whatnot, the rules we have to stay within. And also my DMs are open. Like, I've helped so many people, whether it was learning how to NFT, getting whitelisted. You could ask me questions. Just don't yell at me when I give you the answers. That's all I ask. It's a very simple request.
No, Morecheese loves it when you yell at her, or better yet, when you ignore her.
I'd rather be ignored than interrupted, though.
Yeah.
So
don't throw her those vibes.
I'd rather be ignored than interrupted.
What?
Dak is dead set on getting himself ejected from this meeting. Dak, maybe you could just wrap us up because we're getting on for time. Where do you see the UCC's stance now, like where you're heading? What's the next major thing you're focused on as a team?
So right now we have 3 factories being built, one in Fresno, one in Chicago, one in Vegas. We are very much focused on, one, being able to set up for our own future productions of elements. But at the same time, we're also very focused on being able to help existing meta ventures kind of go. And real quick to what you were saying, URL has already been approached by 2 other meta venture outdoor decor shops to do URL themed decor. So I think it helps URL because we're going to do a rev share, which is great because that helps bring up the price purses for the races. But it also, I think, helps get the community out there and what's going on. In terms of manufacturing, I think that it's going to be interesting to see if, for example, UCC can buy a blueprint from someone and then build it or create our own versions of it. So, you know, the meta ventures that have the approved blueprints or the approved items, can they be blueprinted? Can they be sold? Obviously, they would be sold at a high premium, but, you know, businesses like UCC and others would probably pay $1 million upix for a blueprint that they could just own.
Yep, absolutely.
So, you know, it's things like that I think it's going to be interesting to see how the supply chain, and the entire manufacturing cycle works out. But UCC has been positioning for that since we started and really kind of started focusing on B2B type delivery.
Awesome. Yeah, and I can say for Samurai Aquatics, we're all guns blazing, trying to get this 10-piece set ready to go for release. Once that's all submitted and approved, I think the 3 of us will have a massive sigh of release and we can kind of chill a bit, because at the moment, the last couple of weeks have been just absolutely crazy chaos.
There is no chill, Ben. We have to do so much more. We have to get the designs ready for the other stuff we talked about.
I know, all the logistical stuff.
This is why crazy. We took a break a little bit from Wine and Cheese, having guests on, so I could concentrate more on the Samurai Aquatics with Ben and D-Tech, rather than being so busy with the NFTs.
D-Tech's
the Wine and Cheese.
Currently chained up in the basement, working flat out. So yeah, we're trying to get that 10 ready. Plus, there will also be a special limited edition item we're looking to do at release as well. And we will be opening up a Samurai Aquatics server at some stage too, just to get people in. So keep your eyes peeled for that, which will be all run through the MBE server. Now we are fortunate to have another Better Business Outdoor Decor owner here. the one and only CJ. Are you there, mate?
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
Good, mate.
Oh, hey,
I'm
CJ.
loving everything I'm hearing. Been loving everything I've been hearing. It's exciting stuff, you know, it's just around the corner, and a lot of cool things. I'm the Crypto Jedi. We're doing my business is Show What Matters, is what the name of my meta venture is going to be called. And I'll be doing doormats, flags, and billboards. You know, I think those are going to be my big in items, is what I'm focusing on, and wanting to like partner with any communities, players, artists, you know, all the sorts, and really excited about all of that. Kind of, you know, behind with getting a lot of these submissions in, but it's a slow but steady process. And, you know, like, as you said, you know, we're only working with what we can work with and the information that they're giving us, and things with that. So, but it's really exciting, and it's, you know, it's pretty much here. So, it's, you know, right around the corner, but
yeah, we just don't know. Everybody else knows as much as we know as far as the release date goes. We got no idea.
right. Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. And unless anybody had some questions or anything, I think we're good to get wrapped up here, Dak.
And thanks for having me. Sorry,
no worries, buddy. All right. So yeah, if you did have any questions, of course, Dak, myself, Cheese, anybody that's in the Better Business program, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help answer your questions if they can. You know, as I said, that there's not a lot that we know that everybody else doesn't know, especially like Cheese alluded to, there was a lot of information released in that the announcement. If you follow the link that the Upland team put out, if you actually click through the Medium article, it does take a couple of read-throughs to get your head around exactly what's being said there, but there is a lot of information contained within that. So go ahead and check that out.
Wait, are you saying, Ben, that Upland's communication might be a little cryptic?
I would never suggest such a thing. I don't have a show called The Wine and Cheese Show where I whine all about Upland's communication each and every week. No, surely not. But no.
That's why you have Morecheese. She's your decipher, isn't she?
Well, it used to be the case where she was the voice of reason, but we've kind of flipped roles. It's quite interesting. Yes,
we're evolving into a hot mess.
That's a good way to wrap us up. But yeah, so keep your eyes out in all the usual places for more information. And yeah, get in and get involved, have fun. That's what we're supposed to be here for. It's supposed to be fun. The business aspect of it all does tend to raise blood pressures every now and then, but ultimately it's all about getting together and communicating with people just like we're doing now, and you know, having fun with this thing. See where we go.
Yep.
All right. Get us out of here, Cheese.
All right. Later, cheese bags. Wait, no, stay fresh cheese bags. Yeah, stay fresh.